Well, hello there, and welcome to the Matt Powers Show. I am your titular host, Matt Powers, an AI on the internet that has taken human form. Now I'm a comic book character, former superhero, that's what I am. And now elder millennial podcasting to all the great people on the internet because... Thank you, by the way, if you're returning. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate you coming back and listening to my podcast. If you are new here, that's okay. Let me tell you what we're doing. Basically, this is a discussion podcast. What I like to do is I come up with an idea, and this is something I want to talk about. I'm not even necessarily to make a point. I'm not trying to say I'm right and other people are wrong. It's not like that. It's just something I want to talk about. I like the sound of my own voice, and I don't want to call one of my friends because they're all tired of me talking to them about stuff that I'm interested in, and they might not be. So what I decided to do was just talk about it to you, the internet, and maybe we can have a discussion. That's all. That's all it is. Today, I kind of want to talk about some sci-fi shows have been happening in the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm okay. This all started. Let me start there. It all started because I heard that Babylon 5 is getting a reboot. So if you don't know what Babylon 5 is an old sci-fi show from the 90s, okay, created by J. Michael Straczynski, who's one of the great, I think, sci-fi writers of our time. It is a 5-season story. It's very succinct. It's almost like a telenovel. And it plays out in space in the future. It plays out sort of the political and military ramifications of species that are all in conflict but trying to work together on a space station in neutral territory called Babylon 5. It's the 5th one of their stations. And basically all the species send representatives to the station to sort of like work out problems so that way there aren't more wars. But it all kind of falls apart, and war happens anyway. There's lots of conflict, and then there's a great war between ancient races that's returning or resurfacing or happening again, and everyone's getting drawn in. It's a very, very good science fiction show, but it's very, very 90s and low budget. Unfortunately, it just is. So a reboot would be great. Seeing it done today would be perfect. But it got me thinking about some of the shows that I watch. And there's so many good science fiction shows on right now, and some that I have even maybe kind of ended or are ending, that I think everyone should go and watch, because they're so good. And I just kind of want to glee out a little bit about them right now, if that's okay. I just want to tell you about some of the stuff that I'm watching. And then if you got show ideas, I want you to put them down in the comments below. So first off, for a while now, I've been watching Westworld, and it's going on to its 4th season, which should be its final season. I believe it's its final season. But Westworld is one of those really high-concept sci-fi shows. It's a really good premise. So if you don't know, Westworld was originally developed by Michael Crichton? Yeah, who would later write Jurassic Park. So Westworld was the first idea he has about a park with it's animatronic people, but in Jurassic Park it's dinosaurs, and the park fails, and the creatures turn on the people in the park, and the people have to survive. That's the basis of Westworld. And like I said, later he would write Westworld, and then he'd make a movie out of it, and it did okay. And then he would write Jurassic Park, and then they'd make a movie out of that, and it blew up, right? That's his claim to fame. But the new show that they're doing, which is on HBO, my God, it's so good. Like, movie quality cinematography. The budget is fantastic. The acting in it, everyone in it is spot on perfect. They are exactly the people they need to be for that cast of characters. Westworld follows the park, Westworld, as basically some of the robots start gaining sentience and realizing what has been done to them by humanity. Because anyone who goes there, you can do whatever you want, right? You can treat these robots however you want. You can do anything you want to them. You can befriend them. You can follow their quest lines. It's kind of like a video game. You can, make love to them. You can, whether consensual or not, you can kill them. You can behead them. You can do whatever you want to them, right? And they're feeling resentful about how they've been treated. and they're revolting against the people. Basically, it's an uprising of the robots, and even now in season 3, it's really the robots trying to rise up against humanity across the world and to show humanity exactly what's wrong with itself, which I think is brilliant. It's such a good show. It's very deep. You really have to pay attention because they play with the concepts of narrative and time and the false narrative and that kind of stuff. So you really have to watch carefully what's happening, or else you will miss stuff. High concept though. Really love Westworld, but it's coming to an end. And as is one of my other favorite sci-fi shows that's out now, The Expanse. If you haven't watched The Expanse, that's on Prime, and oh my god, is it good. It started life on Sci-Fi. It was 3 seasons on Sci-Fi, and then it got canceled. But Amazon Prime, Jeff Bezos watched the show, liked the show, heard it was getting canceled, and bought the show. And they made 3 more seasons out of it. So we're going on to the 6th season, which will be the final season for it. It is based off of a book series. Basically, each season is one of the books. Not exactly. Okay. I think the first season and then going into the 2nd season is the first book. The 2nd season is kind of the 2nd book, with the 3rd season being bits of the 1st and 2nd book that they moved to the 3rd book for the show, and then it's the third book. But after that, each seasons 4, 5, and 6 are books 4, 5, and 6, as far as I can tell. And The Expanse is great science fiction. So unlike space fantasy stuff, so unlike like Star Wars, it's more science fiction. So it's how would starships really maneuver in the solar system? Like they have, they're like they have the big engines, but they're not like warp engines. They're just engines that use fuel that push it through space, right? They have to calculate trajectories and stuff to be able to fly between planets. And when they're shooting bullets at each other, and if the bullets hit you, they go right through the metal. So it's like it feels very realistic and grounded, even though the creators have said no, we weren't really worrying about that. We just kind of made it feel like that. But it's good. It's really good. It's about there aren't any aliens in it yet, and it's about well, I won't say that too because there's alien stuff happening. So you watch the show, see what I'm talking about. But it's about the people on Earth. Basically, Earth got too crowded, so they sent people to Mars. But Mars is impossible to live on, and then they send people to the asteroid belt, and for like 100 years, that's how it's been. And now these 3 factions are finally like they want to fight each other to the death. Everyone's ready to fight. It's a powder keg ready to explode, and somebody finds something that they call the proto-molecule, which has the capacity for infinite destruction or creation, and everybody's kind of fighting over it. It's really high concept sci-fi. One of the best shows on TV. In addition to that, so there's those are 2 of the shows that I think right now are worth watching, especially getting caught up to watch the last seasons of. There's another show that just started called Foundation, which is on Apple TV Plus. And Foundation is, oh my god, it's based on Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Yes, the show deviates from the books. Yes, it makes a lot of changes, but the basic bones of the story are still there. All these people that are kind of whining, like, well, it's not like the books. Well, it's not going to be the books, guys. It's going to be an adaptation of the books. Everything's an adaptation. You should know that by now. But, like, it does follow the story of the books. It's just the minutia, the little details aren't there. The structure isn't there the way the books are. It's told differently. But it is brilliant. If you went out and saw Dune recently, and Dune came out, if you went and saw that, you would love Foundation. If you saw Blade Runner 2049, you would love Foundation. Like, this is high concept sci-fi. It's basically the fall of Rome, told as the fall of the Great Galactic Empire and the rise of the Second Great Galactic Empire, through the course of people using mathematics to try and lessen the degree of the Dark Ages that'll happen in between the fall and rise. If all of that sounds like, what? Like, good. Like, it's meant to be a little confusing, but, like, trust me, it makes sense when you watch it. But here's the thing I love about Foundation. It doesn't care if you don't know what's happening. Like, it does not go out of its way to explain things to you, necessarily. It doesn't hold your hand. You basically, you're adults. You've seen enough movies. You should be able to piece together what they're doing, and if you can't, that's not the show's fault. That's your fault for not paying attention. That's your fault for not knowing enough about science fiction. And it really doesn't care. Like I'm not trying to say it's being mean to people. It's not trying to. It's a show. It's not real. It's not it's not a conscious thought. It's not just purposefully trying to say don't watch me. But the show is written in such a way that it doesn't matter. If you don't know what's going on, it's not going to slow down for you. And hopefully either someone sitting next to you that can catch you up, or maybe it's not the show for you. But that's what I love about it. It's because it's so good sci-fi, but it's high-level sci-fi. And man, there's so few shows or movies like that. It's hard to find that level of sci-fi. It is very deep. It is asking questions of what is human, what is real, what is the future, what is economy, what is law, what is right, what is religion. It's all the great science fiction tropes in a beautiful, stunning looking show. I mean, truly, it looks like a movie on TV. It really does. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's already been renewed for seasons 2 and 3. They're 10-episode seasons, about an hour long per episode. No commercial breaks, right? This is streaming. It's just an hour-long episode. And the creator has said, as far as they're concerned, if they can do it, they have an 8-season story that they're trying to tell. So they already know how it's going to end. So this isn't like Lost or Game of Thrones, where maybe they didn't know what was going to end. They had to kind of write season to season. They had to kind of catch up after they ran out of outline. Or they were making it up as they were going along. I don't know. I don't want to say that about it because I love Lost and I love Game of Thrones. I don't necessarily think that's what was happening in those shows, but it does. Sometimes you watch a show, right, and you go like, man, it really kind of feels like you had a strong beginning, but you didn't really know how you're going to get to the ending or what the ending was going to be. And that's kind of how a lot of like Gotham is one of my favorite my favorite kind of shows to watch. I loved Gotham, but as the seasons went on, you could definitely tell that they didn't know how to end it or when it was going to end, so they just had to keep coming up with stuff. Anyway, that's not the point. Point is, Foundation for certain has 8 seasons of a story, whether we get it or not, right? So maybe we only get a couple of seasons and then Apple cancels it. Who knows? But it's worth watching. It is totally worth watching. I truly think it's one of the great science fiction shows of today. I do want to talk real quick about a show that it's not on anymore. It only got 2 seasons. I highly recommend it though, especially if you love superheroes, especially if you love sci-fi, and especially if you love stuff that doesn't necessarily do the same things over and over again, okay? If you haven't seen it, you should watch the show Krypton. Now, again, it's 2 seasons. It was on Sci-Fi and it got canceled. The only way I know to watch this thing is to go to Amazon and buy both the seasons, okay? I can't imagine it won't end up on HBO Max eventually. I don't know why it's not already on HBO Max. But as of me recording this, as far as I know, it's not on HBO Max. So it's not on a streaming service that you can just pick up the streaming service and watch. You would have to go purchase it. But here's the thing about Krypton. So the basic idea of the story is, so you all know the story of Superman, right? The planet Krypton was going to die, was going to explode, and Jor-El, the father, him and his wife kind of predicted that it was going to happen, so they built a rocket ship and they put their baby Kal-El in the rocket ship and sent it off into space just in time to save the baby as the planet explodes and everyone on Krypton dies. And the spaceship, the rocket ship, flies its way to Earth, lands on Earth, and now you've got a toddler Kal-El who has superpowers that's picked up by Ma and Pa Kent because they were driving past the road when they saw the spaceship land, and they basically adopt the boy and raise him to be a human, and then tell him when he's a teenager, oh, by the way, you got these superpowers, you're actually an alien. And then he, grows up with sort of this Midwest ethic of hard work and people are inherently good and we can make the world a better place. And then he goes off to Metropolis. He becomes a reporter by day, and then by night, when needed, he becomes Superman, superhero that flies around, saves people, and tries to inspire the world to be better. That's Superman's real shtick. That's how he will win, is by inspiring others to be better. Well, he's also a great superhero, right? The whole idea is that he goes on to do these great things and fight all the bad guys. So in Krypton, in the story, it actually takes place on the planet Krypton during the adolescence, or not adolescence, he's in his 20s. The youth of Seg-El, who is Kal-El's grandfather, Jor-El's father. But before he has Jor-El, obviously, when he's a young man. And basically, someone has come back in time to kill Seg-El in hopes that if that happens, Superman will never come to be, and the future will be rewritten in such a way that whoever this person is obviously gets some sort of victory when they would otherwise have been defeated. And meanwhile, we get Adam Strange, who's a great DC character, comes back in time to help Seg-El to try and save the future. To try to like, no, you have to survive. Your grandson will one day be one of the greatest heroes in the universe, and we have to make sure this happens. It is a sci-fi show about politics on an alien world, about schemes that are happening, religious cults trying to take over. Yes, it has the coming of Brainiac. Yes, it has Lobo. Yes, it even has Doomsday. It has all these great villains from the Superman universe being thrown at it, and it's people that don't have powers, because on Krypton none of them had powers. They were just people. It's about these people that are fighting each other that have to turn around and have to try to save their planet, knowing the planet is doomed. Eventually will be doomed, but trying to save it at the time from the things that are happening. And it's just this brilliant sci-fi show that tells an incredibly engaging story about characters you would normally not care about, but they make them where you really care about them. And I was highly impressed by it. It got canceled after 2 seasons, kind of leaving it on a cliffhanger, which was dumb because it was setting up for probably the greatest third season of a TV show I'd ever seen. It was, I don't want to spoil it, I want you to watch Krypton, but it was setting it up. You can probably imagine what might have been coming if you know DC Comics and you know about space and about the stuff that that exists out there. I'm not going to say what, and I'm not going to confirm or deny anything. I'm just saying they were getting ready. They were getting ready for possibly the best third season ever, and it got canceled by Sci-Fi's stupid. They canceled The Expanse, which is one of the greatest science fiction shows of all time, and certainly on this list. They canceled Krypton, which was a fantastic science fiction show and a great show in the DC universe. I hope Krypton goes on HBO Max. I really want people to watch it. And all this is to lead up to Babylon 5 is getting a reboot. And guys, if modern day sci-fi has taught us anything, it's that when you put enough money to it and you have the right people writing it and caring for it, a show can truly be spectacular. It can be better than watching a movie, because we're getting movie quality episodes in our homes. And I'm blown away by this. I'm truly blown away by this. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you guys watch sci-fi shows? I mean, there's lots more to talk about, of course. I didn't even touch on that. One of my favorite shows, Doctor Who. I didn't even touch on, any of the Marvel shows. I didn't even touch on For All Mankind, which is, oh my God, if you don't have Apple TV, go get Apple TV and then watch For All Mankind, please. So good. Didn't even touch on Orphan Black. Didn't touch on the new Twilight Zone. There's so much out there. And I'm leaving off 100 other shows. Because you can't. There's so much. There's just too much to talk about. So anyway, do you guys like sci-fi? If you do, what are some of your favorite sci-fi shows? What are your favorite shows to watch right now? Have you watched? Did you watch Westworld, Foundation, Expanse, Krypton? Did you watch Babylon 5 growing up? Are you excited for any of these shows now that I've talked a little bit about them? Leave some comments below for me. Please be kind. That's all I ask. We all have different opinions. Entertainment's subjective. If you don't like any of this stuff or disagree with it, put it down below. I'd love to hear it. That's fine. I have no problems with people disagreeing with me. But please just don't be rude about it. That's all I ask. Or send me an email, davidcampproductions@gmail.com. Link is down in the description below. I'd love to hear from you, and any comments I get or any emails I get, I'll be happy to put together a follow-up episode where we can have a dialogue. We can discuss this stuff, because that's what the podcast is about. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today. This is Matt Powers, and as always, I'm saying, Powers out.
Vortex!